Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Valls, Dragon the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you today. It is November 15th, and there is breaking news across the world. Many are afraid that we are entering into a phase that will lead to World War III. We wish to reassure you, we do not believe so. But we do believe, as we have said many times on this program, that we are entering a time where there may be 3 regional wars across the world. This is a serious time, and there are serious implications on what is happening. And at the core of all of these things, we tend to see the Biden-Harris administration. Their lack of international policy seems to be a key element that is affecting regions across the globe. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about that today. I hope you will take this seriously because of its implications. We do long-form political commentary, and every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live stream with you. We reach out on all the social media that we can, that the internet overlords will allow, to hear what you have to say about the issues that are affecting us all. We do this because we believe in the First Amendment. It is not just an American right, it is a right of everyone around the world to be able to question your government, to ask questions about the issues that are affecting us all. And every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that is exactly what we do with your tweets, your chats, and your phone calls from anywhere in the world. We hope that you will join us this Sunday as well. World War III. At least that's what some of the headlines are saying right now. We are on the verge of World War III because of breaking news that has come out this afternoon that 2 missiles from Russia struck Poland and killed 2 individuals. It's a big deal. That is important because NATO is now maybe activated, which states that if any one NATO nation is attacked, then all of NATO has been attacked and they will be defending each other. But we don't think it will get there. But there is a lot to this. And as we said at the beginning, we believe the core of this is the Biden-Harris administration. The weakness and the failure in having an actual foreign policy, that is the core. The United States, whether we like it or not, is the leader of the world. We are the police of the world, whether we want to be or not, because we are the greatest economy. We have the greatest quality of life. We have the greatest military, all at the same time. And that puts us in a precarious position. We are the king of the hill, and many would like to knock us off of that. But to be the king of the hill, we must have a strong leader with a focus, a goal that we have in terms of our domestic policy as well as our international policy. Under the Biden-Harris administration, that has been lacking severely. And I think that's been very apparent to everyone in the world. We have seen the actions of Iran, China with Taiwan, North Korea threatening South Korea, and Japan. We have seen that in Joe Biden warning and threatening Russia not to encroach on and invade Ukraine, and yet it did. And we see that that has not been improving. The 2022 midterm elections was important, not just for Americans on our domestic policies, but important for the world based on their look. Is America going to change direction? Is America going to take a more focused approach? Is America going to defend its own people or abandon them as we have done in Afghanistan, as we have done in Ukraine? It's a serious question, and the world was waiting very cautiously about this. Now, the red wave, which we have seen taking place throughout Europe and around the world, with countries like Chile and Italy having taken on a more conservative government, a more conservative view, many expected that the United States was poised to do the same thing. And to an extent, that has happened. Republicans are expected to take the House, but it was made very clear after the election when Joe Biden had his first press conference and he said to the world, we are going to continue down the same path, a path that 3/4 of Americans do not want to be on. A path that has been exemplified by the fact that there is no plan. There is no foreign policy plan. There is no domestic policy plan. There is no real substance behind the Biden-Harris administration. And we say that not lightly, but there is no one who can explain what is the Biden-Harris international policy, the foreign policy of the United States. We know in Afghanistan, America ran away from Afghanistan, ran away from the Taliban, ISIS, and Al-Qaeda. We left 5,000 Americans in that nation to this day, and Joe Biden has just stopped talking about them. And we have, in this year, 2022, abandoned some 10,000 Americans in Ukraine, even as they have gone to war, with Joe Biden making statements in February with Lester Holt on NBC saying that he would not protect any American citizens, nor would he go to save them. And again from the State Department just at the end of this summer, the beginning of fall, when they again reiterated that Americans in in Ukraine are on their own and need to find their own way out. Our allies around the world looking at America not willing to defend its own people, the primary purpose of a government, and seeing that, knowing that America's commitment to its allies must be even weaker, because if we will not take care of our own, why would we take care of anyone else? This is added on top of the failures we have seen as an example with OPEC and Saudi Arabia, who would not answer the phone calls of Joe Biden for the entire time he has been in elected office, and then capped off with Joe Biden going to Saudi Arabia to beg the Saudis and OPEC to increase the amount of oil production, only to have them actually cut production, increasing the cost of energy, which globally is increasing inflation and deepening recessions around the world, including for the United States. That is a failure of policy. That is a failure of the administration to show strong leadership. Add to that the problems in North Korea. 70 missiles have been fired this year, more than in any presidency, more than most presidencies combined were sent off by North Korea this year, heightening fears not only in South Korea but in Japan, and making South Korea mention that they are at a time of high alert not seen since 1953, when the Korean War went into a pause, a ceasefire. This is a dangerous time. And Iran has been taking advantage of this, not only trying to push forward to gain as much as they can from the Iran nuclear deal that the Biden-Harris administration is adamant to try and continue to make happen, but in providing Russia with rockets and drones and the ability to conduct war against Ukraine. The Biden-Harris administration's policies have allowed Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran to become aligned, even though these countries do not like each other, making deals about oil and weapons that have destabilized the world and reduced the net amount of peace in the world. And we have to believe that this is not improving, and we will explain what we mean. Let's start off, first of all, going backwards in time. It wasn't that long ago. In fact, it was back on March 19th of 2021 when the first U.S. Biden administration meeting with China, and it got off to a bad start. It was noted internationally. It was stated that this was an insult to America. China slapped America's face around the world. It was a matter of disrespect. It was a statement that America does not have strength. The exact quote is, "The United States does not have the qualifications to say what it wants to speak to China from a position of strength." The Chinese Central Foreign Affairs Commission was saying America could not talk about the Uyghurs, could not talk about Hong Kong, could not talk about Tibet, we had nothing that we could say because the president, Joe Biden, was weak and therefore had no legs to stand on. Whether or not you think that is fair, that is what was happening in March of 2021. That was the message sent out around the world as Russia invaded Ukraine, after Joe Biden warned Russia for months not to do so. The world saw blood in the water and it went after it. It got only worse. If you may recall, it was March 20th of 2022 that China further snubbed the United States, saying he who tied the bell to the tiger must take it off. Again, calling the United States a paper tiger directly to the Biden-Harris administration, pointing out the failures of the Biden-Harris administration on international matters and reminding the United States and the world that China wants to take over Taiwan, that they want to invade, and they have been very clear about that over and over again. And even as Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi have gone over to try and shore up the Southeast Asian region with our allies and to recommit to our support, no one believes it. China certainly doesn't believe it. The Guardian had an article 3 months ago. By taunting the U.S. paper tiger, China risks provoking a backlash over Taiwan, except it never actually happened. As much as people have been waiting for this, waiting for the United States to show its strength to stand up and to take a firm position to establish our foreign policy directives internationally, we have not seen that. We have seen confusion. We have seen that Joe Biden will make statement after statement after statement, and then the White House or Secretary of State Anthony Blinken will turn around and change the statement to correct Joe Biden in his words, showing nothing but weakness. In fact, this goes back even further. We knew that Biden had an issue. Back in December of 2020, we had been talking about the conflict with Joe Biden and China, a conflict that isn't just simply a weakness in Joe Biden, but in fact, partially a problem because Joe Biden has questionable relationships with China through his son, Hunter Biden, and the allegations that we believe that has been reported some 400 charges against Hunter Biden, which link Joe Biden financially to deals with China and other nations around the world, putting his impartiality in question. That relationship between Hunter Biden and China is very complicated. But at the same time that we were learning about that, we also learned that in China, there were professors going on Chinese television and telling the people that China had people at the top of America's core inner circle of power and influence. Do you remember that YouTube video that was removed by the Chinese government? Because we do. And it goes to the point that Joe Biden is conflicted when it comes to China. And it's not that the United States has a great relationship with China. As we see now with the G20 meeting, there have been major problems. Joe Biden spoke to President Xi, the Communist Party president of China. And he had a meeting today. And as was being reported by Sky News, the real problem is not just a series of issues that divide China and the U.S. at the present. Underpinning those issues is a deep mistrust over each other's fundamental motivation. The Chinese believe that America has strategic interest and, indeed, policy of trying to contain China, to keep it down, and to prevent it from being the economic and geopolitical kingmaker it would like to be. America believes China wants to promote authoritarianism around the world and stamp out U.S. interests in Asia. Both of these statements are true. These things are happening. Further, in hearing about the G20 meeting coming from the Japan Times, Biden and Xi clash on Taiwan but find common ground on Ukraine, they stated, and this is a conversation, quote, We had an open and candid conversation about our intentions and priorities, said Joe Biden. We're going to compete vigorously, but I am not looking for conflict. I'm looking to manage the competition responsibly. Joe Biden has taken the lesser stance. He has taken the weaker stance. He has taken the stance of a paper tiger. This is why China, from day one in talking with the Biden-Harris administration, was insulting, why they have attacked America, why they have attacked the Biden-Harris administration, because Joe Biden is weak and will comply. He is not looking for conflict. He is avoiding conflict, like he avoided conflict in Afghanistan, like he has avoided conflict in Ukraine and trying to return Americans home. At every step, if there is an American foreign policy, it is to avoid conflict, to retreat in the face of any conflict, and to try and deflect that as if there is some other option. Whether that's political conflict or whether that's physical conflict, it doesn't matter. And around the world, they are seeing that. Further conversation, as it was stated and reported by Nikkei Asia, Biden said, quote, I want to be clear and be clear with all leaders, but particularly with Xi Jinping, that I mean what I say and I say what I mean. So there is no misunderstanding. Biden said his biggest concern is a misunderstanding about intentions or actions on each of our parts. Biden said that Xi was as straightforward as he has been with me in the past. I think that we understand one another, which is the most important thing that can be done. Well, that's not a statement that's positive. China has not been responsive in any positive manner in the G20 meeting. In 3 hours in speaking with President Biden is taking a deferential stance. He's talking about he wants to be clear, but at the same time, he wants to be non-confrontational. He wants to back down. He does not want to assert America or its priorities, especially in Southeast Asia. He reiterated everything that China wanted to hear. That's capitulation. And that is not a positive stance. Going even further, looking at the BBC and their coverage of the G20 meeting and the conversation between Xi and President Biden. Xi Biden meet. U.S. leader promises no new Cold War with China. Again, this is coming from the United States. China isn't saying that they won't move forward, that they won't be aggressors, that they're not willing to stand by what they have said in the past. It is America. It is Joe Biden who is taking a deferential stance and saying less is more, saying that he will do less in the conflict. And even though Biden has raised concerns about human rights in China, including the treatment of Uyghurs and Hong Kong and Tibet, and the strongest statement, I believe, coming out of this was that Chinese President Xi said, we need to chart the right course for the China-U.S. relationship, given that the world has come to a crossroad. That is a statement of authority. That is a statement of strong leadership. It is Xi and China that are saying that we must chart the right course, that the world has come to a crossroads and the world is looking at China for their leadership, for the direction that will go forward. And they are watching America. They are watching Joe Biden taking a secondary seat in the entire process. Now, you may not agree with that assessment, but the assessment is something that other world leaders are seeing. China hasn't taken action. North Korea did. And North Korea, in many ways, is a puppet government to China. Yes, it is a rogue puppet, but it is a puppet all the same. And those missiles were being launched because those missiles, hypersonic missiles, that technology came from China. China was aware of every missile that was being launched and when it was being launched and where it was being launched to, it is reasonable to say. So, while China isn't making the aggression, their puppet, North Korea, is, which equates to the same result that Americans are weak in Southeast Asia and with our allies, under the Biden-Harris administration, which may be strongly compromised either because of the top links and the friends of the Chinese government at top positions in the United States, and Hunter Biden having multiple agreements with the China and other nations that seem to indicate influence peddling. Even if that is not 100% correct, politics, diplomacy is the impression more than the fact. It is the impression and the feeling that nations have very often that determines the actions, not the other way around. It is the feeling of whether or not there will be an immediate and strong reaction, that there will be strong leadership in reaction to any action taken that will sometimes forestall any action being taken. We saw this very often when the world would call Ronald Reagan a cowboy, and yet no one wanted to mess with that cowboy. We heard many world leaders say they thought that President Trump was a wild card, that he was uncontrollable, and yet they remained calm, not seeking to provoke that wild card because the leadership was strong. Fear is as important a tool as any other in the diplomacy on a global stage. But Joe Biden has not shown that. We have not heard anyone speaking about that. And we know that this is the case that because we see Iran has been sending weapons to Russia, both drones and missiles. They have been doing so continuously. We have seen that this has been happening. This is in defiance of sanctions that have been placed by Joe Biden and NATO. That is in defiance of the best wishes of the United States. That is in defiance of the Iran nuclear deal and the negotiations with the Biden-Harris administration. Iran doesn't think Joe Biden is strong, so they don't have to pay attention to him or his negotiations or his threats on helping Russia, who also laughed in the face of Joe Biden as they called Putin a killer, as they warned against Russia going into Ukraine, saying economic sanctions would destroy Russia. And now, today, the ruble is stronger than it has ever been. It is stronger than before the war actually started, because the world accepts the statement that Xi has made in the past, that China has made, that Joe Biden is a paper tiger. There is no substance behind that. Now, how does that interact with what we were speaking about in reference to what's happening in Poland? Again, the breaking news at this time is that Poland has been fired upon by Russian agents. In fact, most recently, the Pentagon has said, as reported by Reuters, that they cannot confirm this and that they are looking into what is happening, according to Brigadier General Patrick Ryder, as he spoke at a news briefing today. We know that, according to DW, Deutsche Welle, and many news agencies around the world, missiles crossed into Poland and killed 2 individuals. That has been reported by multiple news agencies and seems to be confirmed. And on that news, we stated, it seems that the weakness of Biden with Russia and now China, based on the G20 meeting in Bali, have resulted in Poland missile strike. NATO likely to take little action as the Biden administration can't handle this, North Korea missiles, Taiwan, Iran, all at the same time. And sadly, we are probably likely correct. There are many factors on what's happening with Poland. Why did Poland get attacked if they were attacked? Well, let's first familiarize you with the terrain. Poland has a border with the Ukraine, a rather large border with the Ukraine, and above that is Belarus, which is somewhat of a puppet country for Russia itself. And we believe that about 50 miles away from the Polish border is Lviv, a city that is under missile attack, Iranian missile attack by Russia. And it is possible that in Restoval, there has been a missile that went there, either on purpose or by accident. Now, we do know that some 110 missiles were fired today by Russia at multiple targets, energy targets in the Ukraine. And only about 10 of those targets were struck. Many of those missiles went awry and did not strike the intended targets. It is possible that missiles that were meant for Lviv went into Poland, and that was accidental. At the same time, it may be on purpose. We do know that Russia is denying that they did this, but Russia and Poland have been at odds for quite some time. Even though it has not been talked about on an international basis largely, it has been something that has been going on. As Poland has been dealing with 18% inflation and is in a recession just like the rest of the world, just like the United States, there has been greater and greater demand for energy that is being denied by Russia because of the Ukraine war. Russia has been punishing NATO, whether that be Germany or Poland, and reducing the amount of energy that is available as we go further into the 2022-2023 winter season. It has caused a panic where many Polish individuals are going out and getting coal, actual lumps of coal, so that they can heat their homes to be able to protect themselves. Because this is an economic war, a proxy war that has been going on since Russia first entered Ukraine. Poland has been laying down razor wire on its border with Kaliningrad. We have seen that the Polish have taken this very seriously. They look at the actions of Russia in Ukraine as a stepping stone to what may happen in other places. In Latvia, Estonia, we see that many people are fearful that the next step after Russia is able to get access to the sea, that they will go to the north to get access to the sea in that area, meaning that they will attack Lithuania and Estonia and Latvia once again. And Poland is another target. At least that is their belief. And they have been gearing up for this. This then led to Poland and Germany training Ukrainian troops as a bulwark against Russia, trying to give themselves a buffer zone to protect themselves as Russia continues its aggression both economically and physically. And that led us to the actions today by Poland at the same time that they are announcing that they have 18% inflation, as their people are suffering from a lack of energy, as these people are looking for coal to put into their stoves to heat their homes. Poland took over Gazprom's Polish assets. Gazprom is Russia's gas and natural gas energy, that they control the Nord Stream pipeline. And Poland has taken away from Russia its assets. They have frozen those assets. They have taken them over as an attack, again, an economic attack against Russia. There is a proxy war that has been happening since February. This, of course, would be something that Russia would retaliate against, going against the idea that it was an accidental misfiring of an Iranian rocket, that this was purposive, that Russia was making a statement, not only in reducing the energy that is available for Germany, for Europe, but also for Poland, that they, on top of that, had a reaction to Poland trying to take the money of Russia, and they fired the rockets. That is quite possible. Now, the reason why this matters to so many people in the United States and around the world is NATO Article 5. It is a treaty that essentially has stated, and we're quoting from October 2nd of 2001, any attack on a NATO nation is attack on all of NATO, and thus all of NATO must react. Much in the way that we had to react to September 11, well, now that Poland has been attacked, they would expect that everyone, including the United States, would retaliate on this action, which is why it's so critical to see what Joe Biden will do, to see where the leadership will go, if anywhere at all. given the preponderance of information that we have before us, where Joe Biden has told us for years that he has relationships with world leaders like Putin, like Xi, around the world, we are seeing that that relationship is one based on a lack of respect and a lack of fear and a belief that there is no strength in Joe Biden. And we have seen that in the actions that each of these nations have taken. As we have gone through this with you, we have seen Joe Biden be effective in combining the rogue nations of the world. And that has brought us closer to 3 regional wars, not World War III. We want to be very clear about that. People have been afraid since Russia first entered Ukraine that this would result in World War III. We do not think that is likely. We do not think that Russia would use nuclear weapons, as that leads to an escalation of global world war that nobody wants, because nobody wins in that scenario. But we do believe that they will go up to that limit. And their threats on this isn't so much to actually use nuclear weapons, but to see what is the line that they can cross. Where is Joe Biden in this statement? Where is the United States? Where are they willing to draw a line? And so far, that line hasn't been drawn in the sand. There is no limit, no red line that cannot be crossed. There is one for China. As we heard in the G20 meeting today, there is a red line, which is Taiwan. That's China making the declaration to the United States and to the rest of the world. And Joe Biden's capitulating, saying he doesn't want conflict. We see that North Korea there is no red line with North Korea. 70 missiles threatening South Korea, threatening Japan, increasing tensions to the highest level since 1953. There is no red line in Europe. The danger comes back to the United States. Again, whether we like it or not, the United States is the policeman of the world. The United States is the king of the hill. The United States is the barometer of global stability. The stronger the United States is in its leadership, the less likely to see global instability and chaos. And at the moment, we have Joe Biden, who can't complete sentences, who is corrected by his State Department and the White House on things that he has said consistently. He has led the world into an energy crisis. He has led the world into a recession. He has opened the borders of the United States, and he is going to stay that course, continuing to move towards a progressive agenda that the rest of the world is rejecting wholesale. You don't have to like what I am saying, because whether you like it or not does not change what is happening. And we have to understand that. Our feelings are meaningless in the face of what is happening. The impression in the world is the United States is weak. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are both weak. Everywhere Kamala Harris has gone has led to an increase in frictions and chaos, not a reduction. Whether that's in South America, in Southeast Asia, or even in the Ukraine, everywhere she has gone has gotten worse. She has even less respect and less fear and less belief of strong leadership than even Joe Biden has, which is quite a statement. America is trying to see who will be in charge of Congress. And will Congress be able to carve a path separate of the path that Joe Biden has laid forward? But Democrats seem to be able to remain in control of the Senate, which means Joe Biden will, more than likely, continue at least partially on the path that he has started on. And already we are hearing Democrats prepare for the 2024 elections, preparing to try and face off versus Trump and or Ron DeSantis. In fact, the major news media has already started their campaign of attacks about the 2024 election to try and tear down both DeSantis and Trump and to cause them to clash with each other in hopes to weaken the Republicans to maintain power for Democrats. That is what's happening. But the problem is Democrats are not leading. There is no leadership. And that is why we are seeing the world get crazier. The fact is that Biden and Harris have led the world into less global stability. It is demonstrable. Whether it is intentional is entirely separate, but it is demonstrable that there is little to no respect, absolutely no fear from any nation around the world on what America will do under the Biden-Harris administration, which means that we will see things escalate. And we will see potentially 3 regional world wars if we continue down this path, if we do not see a change of course from Joe Biden, who at this moment has said he won't do it. We can only hope that someone will assert themselves in the Biden-Harris administration and take a position of leadership that will reassure the world that the United States is the cop of the world, that we are the leader of the world. We have a big stick and we will use it. Perhaps you think our summation is incorrect. Perhaps you see the breaking news leading towards a different direction. We would like to hear what you think. Do you think we are getting closer to World War III? Do you think we're closer to 3 regional wars? Do you believe that China or Russia, North Korea or Iran fear and respect Joe Biden? Or do they believe he is weak, as we have asserted? What do you think? We want to hear your voice in this critical time as NATO is looking for direction from America to make their decision on how they will react to people dying in Poland. We look forward to hearing what you have to say. I know you've heard it before. What difference does it? You make the difference. When you watch, chat, tweets, your likes and shares and your subscription, you make the difference. From across the world, you help us to keep the lights on and the stream alive. You are making the difference to fight the woke and the crazy legislation that we see before. We at No Soundbites Allowed, and I want to thank you for everything that you do in helping us reach our goal, and your likes, your tweets, your comments, and your subscriptions to the channel. We want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. And this is a special thank you to those who have donated to the channel and helped us in all of our efforts. We will strive to make this channel the best that we possibly can, because you deserve no less. Thank you.